All right. Good evening, cyber insecurity. My name is Joel Bork. I'm pumped to be here this evening with you. And I'm going to turn it over to my co-host and let him introduce himself real quick.
Yeah, my name is Brandon. I'm a cybersecurity account executive for Usado and the co-host of Cyber into Security or Cutting into Cybersecurity, our CSSP study group. It's been amazing, Joel. Like, how long have we been doing this now?
Man, this is end of November, 4 months. Yeah,
Yeah,
December, January, February, March, right? April. All going on 5 months.
going
And
on five
you know
months
what?
now.
I've loved every second. I've made some incredible friends. We've become great friends. We got Sean, we got David Greer, Vivek, we got a couple other people who've gotten their CISSPs who've tuned in for a couple times and helped augment their studying, who've reached out to me personally to thank me. I'm just blessed, man, and I'm blessed to be here.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome to connect with so many great, like, I don't know about you, but I'm getting some great messaging when it comes to LinkedIn. People reaching out and having really in-depth questions. Like, hey, I'm trying to transition. I'm trying to do this. I need help. I need some recommendations, right? And some things I can answer like real time. And then I'm like, you know what? Come on the stream because your question is not just your question. It's some people in the community. They have that question as well. And we'll answer it live here. So it's really great to see the collaboration, right? And people reaching out and trying to go from whatever career they're in right now, be it engineer, be it maybe IT or anything, and then transitioning over to cybersecurity and hearing the success stories. Like I know I talked to a guy today and just even like NLP, neuro-linguistic language programming, how you talk to yourself about this. He was coming like, I don't know if I'm going to make it, kind of like, talking down to himself. And I said, change that up. Like you got to be excited about being in the security industry.
Yeah, you got to be excited. How can you not be excited? We got what 0% unemployment in the field. Where else can you say that? I mean, it's just an exciting time for cybersecurity, and I'm just excited to help people, no matter where they're at in their journey, just level one up. And we were talking about it right before. Like we're talking about going right from this and going into CISO content. Like, talk about starting with the end in mind, Brandon. Like, guys, for the next generation of CISOs, whether you're just getting into InfoSec, if your goal is to become a chief information security officer someday, you got to join us with this. Whether you're able to take the exam and qualify based on 5 years experience in all the different domains or not, if you want to be a CISO, you have to be able to think like one starting today, right? So being able to start with the end in mind, and you've even helped shift my mindset already. So I'm just pumped to help everybody level up, whether it's this or
Okay, so let's go through this, right? So when Joel first asked me about the CISO role and what he was doing, he was like, "It's got to be highly technical. I got to get technical certifications. I really kind of have to do this." And I'm like, "Joel, no, you don't. No, Brandon, you don't understand." Then he saw Dr. Cole's post, and he goes, "Okay, I guess you're right. You don't have to be highly. You can have a technical background, but the role is not technical. The role is business oriented. It's very business focused, financial risks, things along that line. You can have some technical knowledge, but at that boardroom level, a lot of it's not talked about, right? Because they have the technical guys that do the work." Right? They're talking about business strategies, that level. And when I heard Joel say that, it was kind of interesting to watch him transition to like putting on that business hat and having that conversation.
Yeah, no, great point. Now I have read articles, where yes, you have that business minded, that non-technical CISO. Now, granted, there's also a place for that technical CISO in a startup when you're doing
Yeah.
technical architecture, right? So there are two hats that you can play, but definitely when you get into bigger enterprises, it is not a technical role, and I had to shift my mindset.
Well, even at the lower roles, right? Sometimes you're hiring an architect. Like you got to hire the professionals because you just don't have the time
Yeah.
because you're dealing with the C level, you're dealing with the CFO, you're dealing with the operations, the chief operations officer, you're dealing with the CEO, right? You're dealing with supply chain, security, risk, compliance, like all that. So to look at the architectural design and work on that, you don't have the time for it. So you need to bring that security professional in to go, I need you to draw that out, make sure that we're on board. We limit the risk. Come to me if you have any questions and how we need to do it, but I'll review and sign off. But at the end of the day, I need you to do that work. So it elevates it to a next level where it's not these guys drawing it out, designing it, doing the network topology, doing all that. They just don't have the time.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. And like Sean said, and Jack, I'm looking at the chat slash not looking at the chat. Sean said, look, CTO is going to be your very technical role. Like, think VP of engineering is boss, right? Needs to be technical, needs to know product, needs to know engineering. CISO, you need to know security, you need to know compliance, you need to know policy, you need to know the business and how security applies to the business, right? So no, spot on, guys. Now I don't know if you guys know, Jack is about to throw up a quick poll for us on, do you want to be a CISO someday? Just yes or no. I'd love to see your response. Can you envision yourself sitting in that chair someday? I want to know. So if you'll
hold on,
yes no
let's go through the caveat that look to the setup. Because remember what Dr. Cole said.
Yeah.
When you wake up in the morning, are you the guy that wants to run the business? You think about business, you think about entrepreneurship, you think about how the business runs, or are you the guy that wakes up in the morning and thinks how to set it up, the technology, the communication? Like, where's your mindset day to day? And can you see yourself switching? Right. That was the one, when I interviewed Dr. Cole, he goes, that was the conversation he had was, can you see yourself switching and going into that role? Right. Where you're now having the conversation day in and day out about business versus about technology.
Yeah. And guys, no is a totally appropriate answer.
Yeah.
I'm going to challenge you. The CISO certification and the stuff you're going to learn in there to be a senior manager, even if you're reporting to a CISO and you want nothing to do with that the CISO role, understanding how your CISO needs to talk is going to help you be that more effective of a direct report to him as a senior.
Why is that, Joel?
Well, because if you need to get your point across that, hey, I need these, if you want to stay technical, I need these tools in order to do my job appropriately, you'll know that you need to talk ROI, return on investment. You'll need to talk return to shareholders with your CISO on how it's going to follow your policies, how it's going to help with compliance. All of those things you need to be able to learn how that talks. So if you haven't taken the poll yet, looks like we've got some people already taking that. Click down in the chat and click your answer and then vote for us real quick. Do you ever see yourself sitting in that CISO chair? Because if you do, there are things that can get in the way. But if you're persistent, you do your due diligence and you focus on it, there's no reason you can't sit in that chair.
Well, and here's the other thing too. If you know how they think, you can speak their language. Like what Joel's saying, but just a little bit caveat to change. You can speak their language because technical guys, you want to talk about, top right Gartner report, newest innovation, AI technology, all that stuff. But does it matter to them? What's the language they speak? What's the cost of this? What's the, ROI? What's the risk on the organization? How's the organization going to benefit? Is it going to be a profit center? Is it going to be a cost center? What's the CapEx? What's the OpEx? When you have those dialogues, then you kind of speak their language. Then they go, Joel, you're coming present to me. You get it. Okay, now I am hearing you. Versus, oh, it's the best technology. If Fortinet versus Checkpoint versus Cisco, I'm like, okay, what do we need? Joel, what do we need as the organization? And then when Joel comes back and speaks that language, I'm going, he gets it. He understands the business.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I know a lot of people are in technical roles, people watching. That's a good thing to be in a technical role right now. To have a deep understanding of a certain part of the business, whether it's DFIR, whether it's threat hunting, whether it's just purple teaming, whether it's threat emulation, whether it's compliance and auditing. Guys, that is awesome. And remember, you can't learn everything. So get good at what you're doing now and learn what it takes for those next roles and do that role before you have the role. Let's
talk about pen testing.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys are transitioning to pen testing, wanting to go that role. We're talking about CSSP, and then you're looking at all the different domains, right? So now as you're going into the meetings with clients, you can speak about the domains and which areas it affects and how, you're looking at your compliance reports, you're looking at this. I know a lot of times when I'm going to meetings and talking about PCI compliance, sometimes they need vulnerability testing and pen testing, annually test, because you can speak on that compliance and relate it to what you do. And they go, okay, Joel as the pen tester, he gets it versus, well, you know what? You have a vulnerability over in this area. I actually did a pen test against it. I looked at the application and this layer of code. And they're like, okay, how does that affect us? Well, because your compliance, PCI compliance, and your e-commerce, we were able to compromise it. It now, voids that compliance that you need, and you need to have this remediation. Now that conversation becomes, okay, we need to do that. Joel, thank you.
Yeah, I agree. Now, there's a misnomer.
Okay, what's the misnomer?
I want to address it because I actually heard it 3 times today when I was talking about CISOs and 2 CISOs.
Okay.
That CISOs get their job because of their ego or because of their personality or because of who they know. Sometimes, yes. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes, yes. But also, the CISOs I've met, they've been some of the hardest working people I've ever met. So while you may not think you have the personality for a CISO, guys, CISO skills can be learned. You can learn what it takes to be a CISO. And if that is something you aspire to be, you can do it. So whether you think you have the personality or not, what it comes down to is, can you show the business value to the hiring managers and say, this is why I can impact your business as a CISO in a way other people can't? It's all up here. It's all up here. So that's my challenge, guys. We should do a session on this someday, Brandon. What's up?
We will. Now, there's a comment here, which is actually really good. Slackish, I've been on a CISO track for about 7 years now. CSSP really helps with the base knowledge of that stuff. I'm currently looking to shift into more of a DFIR centric role to get that experience under my belt before I try to step in the big boy seat. One thing I would say also, not sure if you're doing this or not, find a CISO that you can go underneath and get mentorship. What do I need to know? I think and now, not saying you haven't done this, but if you have, and this is for everyone out there, it will speed up your learning curve. And then you get to understand what they do day to day. What are they looking at? How they're developing their program? What programs are they looking at? What industry are they specific in? Some CISOs only like to work in certain industries because they know it so well. And jumping over to another industry they're not too comfortable with because they don't know it that well. So they might be in finance. They might be in retail. They might be in manufacturing because they know that industry very well. Word. So that's another thing to look at as you're going through here, something to think about, because CISOs have to know that industry, compliance, risks, all that, systems, how the business, each organization business runs. Sometimes they have connections in that industry. So as you're going through your journey, build that out too.
Also, you don't have to know all that before you step into the role.
Of course not, right?
Like there's so much you get to learn on the job, no matter where you are in IT, and it evolves every 2 years. Like right now, it's all about migrating to cloud. Right now, so if you're going to get technical, I recommend, if you want to go CISO, every CISO role or VP role you're going to see has knowledge of the cloud, knowledge about FedRAMP, knowledge about, you name it.
Now, let's be clear, knowledge of, not expert of. There's a difference, right? 5 years experience of developing cloud architecture versus knowledge of.
100%.
Do you know software as a service, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service? Do you know the shared security model? Do you know all the risks associated to the cloud? That's what they're asking about, right? Not, can you go out and develop AWS on a platform as a service solution? So something to think about. Now we got the poll back. What do you think the number is, Joel? Just a wild guess. Don't look at it. What's the wild guess?
I cheated. I already looked at it. 77% of you said yes, you could see yourself in a CISO role someday. And that's fantastic, because to be honest, we need more people leading cybersecurity efforts at organizations. And we need people who can share why it's of essence to organizations. So I love to see that. But also there's 25% who say, I'm good. And that's okay. We need absolute rock stars on the technical side.
Well, and you can have a great career in that. It's nothing wrong with that. That's why Joel is saying, I totally agree. When I was in IT, working for the Ontario government, there was guys that worked IT, second, third level support. That was their job for their career. Some of them were retiring in those jobs, and it was a great job. It was a great career. They evolved. They learned a lot. As Joel was saying, technology kept changing, so they were always learning. So it's not a bad job, especially in security. You're securing so many different new technologies constantly. It's an evolution of that job. If you're in a security analyst, you're a SOC, you're a pen tester, things like that. Amazing career, right? And you can keep going. We're just saying, if you want to go to that next level.
100%. Now, Brandon, I hate to interrupt you, but I have to ask you a question. So in my experience, do you know who the happiest people have been that I've met?
Pen testers.
The people who give the most.
Okay. Yeah. Gratitude.
So let's get working towards giving away a $25 gift card today. You ready?
I'm ready. Now, do you have the question?
I'm ready on the question. I'm prepped. I'm ready, but we got to get into our
Did you give
practice.
this Tech IT?
I'll give it to him. Will you walk us through this first question then?
Yeah.
Cool. Coming right up, guys. Let's get a couple practice questions in. Brandon, run us through this first one real quick, and I'll get this over to Jack.
Yeah. So question number 22, with the OSI model, at what layer are some of the slip, C-slip, PPP control functions provided? A, data link, B, transport, C, presentation, and D, application. So I'll give you guys a second to answer that, kind of go through it. So do you guys remember the OSI model, right? And what you're going through, right? And you look at slip, you go look at the data link, the transport, the presentation, the application. So even just going through it, we know as Joe and I reviewing it, it's not the presentation model, it's not the transport model, right? Can it be the application or data? Well, I'm going for myself. I'm going more the data link layer.
And why do you pick that over application, Brandon?
Well, we were talking about the application one earlier today, right? And the application is as far as my understanding, you got like HTTP, you've got FTP, you've got Telnet, right? At that layer,
Yep.
right? And the data link layer is one of the lower layers, right? The physical layer, then the data link layer, right? So then you've got, L2 TP, you've got PPP, slip, all those at that layer.
Yeah. And if you know slip, if you know something like Vivek knows that slip is for telephones, you got an advantage, right? So if you can focus on really knowing a couple of these and what their purpose is, you'll know exactly where it falls. And the correct answer is data link. So well done. You guys absolutely crushed that one. And this is your chance, guys, right? So these next few, take a guess on it. Remember, point-to-point protocol is a data link protocol that is used to establish a direct connection between two nodes. It's replaced the older slip and C-slip protocols. So data link layer. Let's move on to the next one, Brandon.
Awesome.
So in the Open Systems Interconnect or OSI reference model, at what level are TCP and UDP provided? This should be an easy one, guys. Throw it in the chat. A, transport, B, network, C, presentation, or D, application. Brandon?
Okay, so let's go through this. We already know it's on the application, the presentation layer, right? We know that because TCP and UDP is at either the transport or network. So narrowing this down, and this is why I'm trying to help you guys to narrow this down, right? And then you look at the network, is IP, IPsec, ICMP, IGMP. So right now, knowing that, right, you're knowing potentially if it's not at the network layer, it's got to be at the transport. So now remember these guys, like Joel said, if you don't get the right answer, that's fine. But try to narrow it down to the best two so that you have your best guess, and then you'll learn easier from that. So now I'm going with A, transport.
Yeah, spot on, right? And I like, once again, what Vivek says. Remember, TCP is T for transport. So absolutely, that's a great way to remember it, right? TCP, UDP are the examples of the protocols working at transport layer, and it is the heart of the OSI model. So great job. Let's go ahead and jump into the next one. So question number 24, which of the following is true? And I'm going to highlight that. Remember that as you read through these regarding TCP and UDP. TCP is connection oriented. UDP is not. UDP provides for error correction. TCP does not. UDP is useful for longer messages rather than TCP. TCP does not guarantee delivery of data, while UDP does guarantee data delivery. Brandon?
So I'm going to go D. I think D's wrong because it has an acknowledgement, the TCP protocol. So that's wrong. UDP is useful for longer message rather than TCP IP. I don't think that's true. Right. And then UDP provides for error correction. TCP. No, that's not true. Is there? Right. We know that. So I'm going with A. TCP is a connection oriented and UDP is not.
Yeah, spot on. So let's walk through this real quick and let's see what they say. Yeah. Yeah, so it's kind of flip-flopped what they did, right? TCP provides error corrections. UDP does not. Think of UDP as more of a stream, right? Now, here's the crazy part, Brandon. I think I've asked you this before, but do you remember Netflix, right? Let's think Netflix or streaming services.
Yeah.
And I asked you this, and it's a hard one because if I asked you what protocol does Netflix use, TCP or UDP? Do you guys know? Throw it in the chat if you guys know real quick. Don't answer
Yeah,
yet.
because I was saying the original one. I wait till these guys answer, right?
Yeah.
And the original answer, I got it wrong because I thought it was more of a streaming protocol, right?
Yep.
Right.
But what they've done is they've optimized TCP, and they actually use TCP for Netflix, which I thought was really cool. And I would have gotten it wrong too if I saw that on a test. That should have been our $25 question there.
Then what's the Netflix protocol?
What protocol does Netflix use, right? TCP or UDP? And the answer is TCP, even though you would assume it's UDP. The other one is UDP is a connectionless protocol, and it's less useful for longer messages compared to a connection-oriented TCP. And yeah, TCP guarantees delivery of data while UDP does not, right? So it's connectionless. So cool stuff. All right, guys, easy one. We got 2 more of these, and then we got a gift card to give away. So what's the port number for HTTP?
Okay.
A81, B80, C8080, or D8180?
Okay. So let's kind of go through this. From my understanding, port 81 is not a port. 8080 is not a port. And 8180 is not a port. So it can only be.
They are ports, and I've seen HTTP use 8080 before.
Oh, have you? Okay.
Absolutely.
So the one that I know of that I think we're going to is port 80.
It is port 80. The de facto server port for HTTP is port 80. That's what you'll see on the exams. That's what you'll see everywhere is port 80. Good stuff. Yep, it says it's not, but once again, you can assign it to use any port
you want, right?
Yeah. So good stuff. Last question, last practice question, guys, is looking at the choices below, which ones would be most suitable protocols / tools for securing email? We got PGP and SMIME. We got IPsec and IKE. We got TLS and SSL, and we got SSH. Brandon?
Interesting. So going from the bottom, SSH, it's not used for email, right? TLS and SSL isn't that for HTTP traffic? IPsec and IKE. IPsec is not used for email either. So I would go with pretty good privacy, and SMIME would be your email protocol. So A.
Yeah, SMIME definitely. Secure MIME is a standard for encrypting and digitally signing mail. PGP is often used for signing, encrypting, and decrypting text, emails, files, directories, or whole disk partitions to increase the security of email communications. Whew. All right, good stuff.
Oh, so hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did you do the question?
What was that?
The gift card question.
I got it. I got it pulled up. You ready?
Did you give it to the Sec IT guy?
Oh yeah, Jack's already ready to rock. So Jack, here we go. This is the question. So this one's for a $25 gift card. If you guys haven't joined us yet, I just want to say thank you for joining us, because I don't know if you know this, but Brandon and I have been pushing and trying to get 100 people at the same time watching these streams. And Brandon, I'm going to tell you right now, we got it.
What? That's awesome. Thank you guys so much.
So thank you guys. That was just a personal goal of ours, was, okay, can we get 100 people watching? And right now we have 100 people. So instead of 1 gift card, I'm going to give away 2. Is that cool, Brandon?
2.
This
is that like Christmas.
This is like Christmas.
There we go. Let's do it.
So we're going to have 2, and Jack, you're just going to have to roll with me, man. So I hope you guys are cool with it. Let's give away $50. I'm really excited. Thank you guys for just helping us break that number. It was just a little something like, hey, can we go out and try this? So you may see some little posts and blurbs kind of promoting this on LinkedIn. That's kind of our efforts, just to kind of bring this community together and build connections for all of us, right? I want you guys to connect in the chat, participate, be part of this community. It's fan-friggin-tastic. So question number 1. Are you ready, Brandon?
Get ready.
All right, guys, it's incoming. First correct answer in the chat wins a $25 gift card to Amazon or Buffalo Wild Wings. Ready? Here we go.
Ready.
According to the CISSP content, at what OSI layer do Telnet and SSH reside? 1 through 7. Ready? Go. $25 each to Cedric. $25 gift cards each. We're going to be giving away 2. So $50 total. Let's see what we got. And
we have a winner?
Dude, I'm sure we got a winner. I'm sure we got a winner. And the cool part is, like, if you try to Google this stuff, it's too late. Like, there's somebody else.
People are so quick to answer, right?
the 100 people, somebody wants that gift card. You got to know it. So really cool. I'm super stoked. Looks like we got Prime Gaming Munzie with layer 7 first. Round of applause. Awesome job. It is, according to the CISSP content, Telnet and SSH reside at layer 7, the application layer. Now, as we're going to go into in today's session, whether it actually does or not, sessions 5 through 7 are a little fuzzy, and I'm going to go on a little rant later on why the OSI layer is not, OSI model is not my favorite, and why we shouldn't use it. But that's for another day. So if you get asked on the CISSP exam where Telnet and SSH reside, it is on, Brandon?
Layer 7.
Awesome. So Munzie, thank you. If you will please reach out to Sec IT Guy on the Discord. He's going to post the Discord in the chat. Hop in the Discord, shoot Sec IT Guy your email and whether you want an Amazon or Buffalo Wild Wings gift card, and you will have that by tomorrow morning sitting in your email inbox. Cool?
So are we giving away 2 for that one question?
We're going to give away another. You cool?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. So this one's a little tricky.
But hold on. Did you give Sec IT the answer?
No, he doesn't need the answer.
Okay.
He'll know this one. I'm all right. Ready? Here we go. I need a mnemonic for the OSI model that's not related to pizza. Ready? Go. First one in chat gets a $25 gift card. Let's see who gets it. Sec IT, sorry, you're going to get a mixed bag of answers on this one. But the first one who can do a mnemonic for the OSI model is going to get that not related to pizza is going to get a $25 gift card. So let's see who we get.
Oh, we already got one already.
Already got one. Looks like Flight Quest 6489. I don't care if he won already. I want to see what you got. Not related to pizza. Get me a mnemonic for this. I'm kind of curious if anybody's going to use my pot one that I presented in class. But throw them in there, guys. Yeah, that's the one I use too. All people seem to need data processing. It's a good one. It's catchy. It sticks. So if you watched one of my previous chats, well done. Guys, I'm having a blast. You guys having fun?
So yeah, so Flight Quest again. Yeah, congratulations. Like Joel said, send your, reach out to Sec IT Guy, email address, B-dubs, as well as Amazon. Pick one.
Pick one. And for all of those who got stuck on the pizza side of things, good luck next week or on Thursday. We'll give away some more money on Thursday if you're cool with it, Brandon.
There you go.
Cool. Awesome, guys. Once again, thank you for joining us on Cutting Into Cybersecurity. We kind of had something me and Brandon were saying a while back. We said, come for the gift card, stay for the content. So we hope you guys stick around and talk to us about the OSI model a little bit more as we dig through the content and why it's weird.
So I have a question for the community.
Yeah.
How many of you guys have now learned the OSI model, actually went out and started to apply it, and was really confused because it wasn't matching up? This is what we're going to talk about a little bit today, because as we were preparing for this, Joe was kind of looking at some different methodologies of using it in real world. And we were kind of going through it going, but that doesn't line up, especially on, I think it was the session layer, the application, and the presentation layer. I think that's what you were talking about mostly as we were finding out. Or was it the presentation, the session layer? Was that right, Joel?
Yeah.
Layer 5 and 6?
Yeah, so we were talking about Telnet specifically before this, and I'm like, okay, this is super frustrating because you hear Telnet referred to as Telnet over IP, which means it runs over network layer, but it sits on top of that. So it's on the transport layer. But then it also interacts at the layer 7, and it could technically be like a layer 5. It's super weird because as soon as you get above the transport layer, layers 5, 6, and 7, according to the TCP/IP model, are all just that one application layer. So it's really interesting to see that some of these protocols, they don't fit into one very well. And we'll dig into that here in a bit, and we'll show you the differences, and then we'll bring it back around and say, but here's what the CISSP content tells you it is according to their study book and according to their exam content. So good stuff. So yeah, Telnet and SSH tunneling, they're both layer 7 layer 7 application protocols according to CISSP. So good stuff.
Now, something I want to ask you, Joel. I mean,
Yeah.
do you remember like with the OSI model when we were first kind of going with Security Plus, Net Plus, they had the two different ones. They had the OSI, TCP/IP, and the hybrid.
I don't remember a hybrid. It was always the TCP/IP and then the OSI model. So let me kind of pull that up real quick and just kind of show you guys what we're talking about. So there's kind of a couple models that it has been modeled up for how kind of connections in the internet works and how connections work. And this is kind of what they are. So you have the OSI model, and that's what we've been talking about. That's what all the questions, or most of them, were that we just ran over. And that starts, and if you start at the top, all people seem to need data processing. That's a mnemonic for the first letter of each of those layers. So application, presentation, session. And you can see over on the TCP/IP model that it's all just smushed into one application layer. Then you have transport, you have network and internet, and you have data link physical, and you have link for the TCP/IP model. Is that where you're going with this, Brandon?
Yeah, and then remember, like what I saw was they actually had a hybrid.
Oh, I'm sure.
Right, a hybrid model, which then brought in on the bottom two. Give me a second here. Let me see if I can find this here. I'm going to show you guys kind of quick what I found. So on this one, you can kind of see this on this web page. They have the hybrid, and then instead of having just the network access, they've broken up into the physical, the data link, the network, the transport, and then the application is all combined.
That's my favorite, and that one makes logical sense. So guys, can I rant a little, Brandon?
Go ahead.
Cool. So no, I think that's a great example. So I'm going to share something with you. There was this guy named Robert Graham back in 2019 on Twitter, and he did this fantastic rant about the OSI model. And I'm going to share just a little with you. And I'm actually going to pitch this over to, I'm going to pitch this. Poojan is Flight Quest 6489, Brandon.
Nice.
Poojan is back. Welcome back, Poojan. He's actually won a $25 gift card over on LinkedIn before. So it's good to see you back here over on Twitch, Poojan. Hope you're doing well. All right. Sorry. Back to Twitter rants, because that's what we live for, right? Let me see if you guys can read this. He says he's had 3 hours to kill in an airport, so he wanted to talk about the OSI model. He said, you know what really happened when the kid pointed out that the king was wearing no clothes? The kid was punished. Nobody cared, and the king went on wearing the same thing, which everyone agreed was made from the finest cloth. And if you guys don't understand that reference, the king was naked at the time because his seamster said that he made him the greatest robe, and he gave it to him and put it on him, and he was naked. It wasn't anything. So he said the OSI model was created by international standards of organizations for an alternative internet that was too complicated to ever work, and which never worked, and which never came to pass. Oh, I love this. I actually looked for this guy on LinkedIn, and I couldn't find him. So if you guys know him or are connected to him on LinkedIn, let me know. But if you scroll down here, you can see he says, so layers 1 through 4 are at least a semblance of reality, incorporating Ethernet and TCP/IP, but it's layers 5 through 6 where it goes off the rails. There's no session or presentation layer in modern networks. Sure, the concepts exist, but not as layers, and not with the functionality those layers envision. For example, and he goes on. So I'm going to go ahead and post this in chat real quick, because guys, if you have time to read through that Twitter rant, it is fantastic stuff. And I laughed my hiney off earlier today while reading it.
And I think that's why, like, and you got to know all the layers when we talk about the OSI model, especially for the exam. But as you're going to real world, I think, like you're saying, Joel, you're going to now compress those into the application layer, and then it's all going to be in one layer.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, no, and it was hard because now we're trying to put it into context, right? And apply it real world. And it's like, oof, this OSI model, not so much, but it's in the CISP content. So we got to
You have to know it for the test, right? That's why we're trying to make it sure you get the layers down. And then once you do and go into real world, you can have now the application layer, right? Mm-hmm. The application layer, the network access layer, and then Bob's your uncle, as long as you know where it is.
Well, and here's the reality, guys. You don't just have to know it for the CISSP exam. I got asked for it for my threat hunter role. I got asked what the OSI model was for my pen tester role when I was interviewing. So guys, this is something that people go by, and they expect you to understand at least the basics on how it works and what the mnemonic is for it. So cool stuff. Also, Jack, do you mind pasting our LinkedIn stuff? It looks like we got a really cool community. It looks like some of you guys are making friends already. Let me go ahead and pitch that over. There we go. That's for you, Brandon. And I apologize. I have Discord on a different computer, so I can't copy that over there. But guys, if you guys, are dipping out, thank you for joining us. If you're staying with us, awesome. It looks like a few people are going to study for the EJP or a pen test one, and I saw some people talking and saying, "Hey, look, we should study together sometime." That's what this is all about. So, guys, find study buddies. And Brandon's been my accountability buddy this whole time. Brandon, I don't know if I've told you this before, but you are a huge reason why I have the CISSP exam today. So thank
That's
you, sir.
awesome. And you know what the funny thing was is when we first started talking about, Joe was kind of doing on his own studying, and he was busy. He was busy trying to do it on, and then he said, "How do you learn, Brandon?" I said, "I learned by teaching. I learned by actually doing it and applying." He said, "Well, why don't we create a stream and teach it?" I'm like, "Let's do it." Right. And that's how this all came to fruition, that we actually started doing it. And Joel started like we do, we have study notes and things like that as we do from session to session. And that's how Joel got prepared. And then I'm doing mine in May, same thing. And now I'm going back through our notes and everything. So I'm ready in May to go write it.
Yeah, you're going to crush it, man. I'm so excited for you. It's not even funny. And once again, it's hilarious that I get to keep doing this, but congratulations, Vivek, who's our newest CISSP member. Super proud of you, buddy. Sean Delane is going to be following closely. And if you guys are studying for the CISSP, like, throw your dates here in the chat, sync up with these guys and have them hold you accountable, because they are fantastic.
Have us hold you accountable. Let us know, because we'll announce it. And then if you need some questions, there's a domain that you're weak on, let us know. We'll help you kind of get through that domain. But again, the goal of this is to help everyone that wants to go for the CISSP get prepared and be able to go right. Now, caveat here. We've had a concern, a question before. We're not teaching you how to dump this out. Answer 200 questions, 150 questions, and go in, dump it on. This is stuff so that you can go. We're studying and teaching real world scenarios, right? So that you can go to work tomorrow and talk about it and do it and apply it.
Well, and how frequently does it come into effect in your job? All the time, right?
For me, like it's daily. Like when I'm talking to clients, depending, like for me, it's compliance, it's protocols, it's processes, it's policies, it's assessments. All this is coming into my day-to-day conversation, right? And understanding this, even today, I was talking about network, right? Network access. I was talking about a data center today, and we were talking about helping a data center get security, firewalls, and what need to do, and how different things were. All this came into play of this conversation.
Yeah, no, it's great stuff, and it's only going to get better, right? As we do this, and this is kind of, we're digging into the technicals, right? This is not an inch deep, a mile wide, like everybody says CISSP is. We're getting into the weeds. So you ready, Brandon? Let's jump into the weeds a bit.
Let's do it.
Awesome. So this is the transport layer. So this is layer 4. If it asks you at what OSI model layer does the word segment refer to, it's transport. If it's talking about protocols, guess where segments apply to? Well, TCP and UDP. And then the cool part about this is I found this website, I think it was a DoD website, talking about the different denial of service attacks at the different layers. This one is talking about SYN floods, Smurf attacks, and basically reach bandwidth or connection limits of hosts or networking equipment, right? So if you can max out the bandwidth, boom, you got a DDoS type scenario. And then it talks about mitigation, right? DDoS attacks blocking, commonly referred to as black holing. It's a method of typically used by ISPs to stop DDoS attacks. So if you heard of Akamai attacking Brian Krebs' website, that's what they were doing, right? In order to mitigate a distributed denial of service attack. It's wicked expensive to do, but that's why Brian Krebs went to Akamai and worked with them. I think they actually ended up dropping him because he was so expensive to protect, because he just kept
hacked constantly.
He was getting hit constantly with DDoSes because people were he kept releasing things about hacker communities and bringing things to the surface, and they kept trying to DDoS him. So really interesting stuff. So, I promised to kind of bring this around on how are these layers, how does it impact DDoS or pen testing? And so that's what I wanted to bring kind of full circle.
So now here's another thing, you guys, as Joel's going through this in our previous videos, he's gone through the layers. You're bringing this up on each one. Each of the layers, he talks about the OSI layer, the protocols, the layer description, the different protocol data units, PDUs, and you've gone through and how it relates to real world. So if you guys want to go back through, especially guys, if you guys are looking at pen testing, go back and watch the videos and watch these ones again, because it'll actually help to apply to what you're doing for real world.
Yeah, spot on. Now let's I can't go too far back. I know some people are a little confused, but let me try to sum things up a little bit with a little picture. And for those of you who are joining us for the first time, guys, I love pictures to try to explain this stuff. But let me throw something up first, because this is important for everybody to understand. I mean, this is it, guys. This is what we're talking about here today. When we talk about the OSI model, the OSI model will be more of a guideline than an actual set of rules. Okay. And this is basically the OSI model. For those of you who are new to us, it's the connection between devices, right? And how that data is transformed across the network as it flows. So we're talking about the transport layer, and let's jump into the telnet conversation we had earlier. And
yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready for it.
So telnet real quick, and let's talk about this for a second, because I actually at work recently. So for those of you who don't know, telnet is SSH in clear text. I'm going to repeat that. SSH in clear text is known as telnet. So shoot, I just took a screenshot of that and I got to pull it up real quick. Here we go. Perfect. So here's what that looks like. So when we're talking about, when you see physical, that's when it's at the bit layer and it's traversing over the coaxial cable. Then you have the data link. Then you have IP, which is your network segment. Then you have TCP UDP. And then telnet rides on top of that, right? So it rides on top of IP on that TCP UDP. So once again, once you get above TCP UDP, you're now in layers 5, 6, and 7, which are kind of all one application layer, which is why telnet and SSH are referred to as layer 7. It's been hit or miss. It could be layer 4, could be layer 5, could be layer 6, depending on how you like translate it. But it's a level layer 7 protocol. So that's how telnet works, and it traverses over port 23, right, as a destination port, and those connections are in clear text. So if you're logging in now, where are you going to see telnet in use? Brandon, do you know?
No, actually, I don't.
Cool. Old hardware.
Okay.
Old hard. I mean, think like
what type of hardware?
Think like 1996 switches. Before SSH was around, they're already at end of life, right? So they're no longer in use, but the only way to connect to them is telnet.
So now, would you be connecting to administrate it? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, you're connecting as an administrator, just like SSH. You have to enter in your password, and then you get a prompt, command line prompt, where you can check system stuff, check network configs, right? And unfortunately, it does not implement encryption in transit. That's what SSH was developed for, right? Because telnet is wicked insecure. So if you haven't done this, if you have visibility over your network at work, query on destination port 23 and see if you have any clear text occurring on your network. It may be something you want to address because it's definitely bad network hygiene. But if you have really old hardware that's end of life, that risk either needs to be accepted or addressed.
So now, yeah, now I just got SecIT just actually said something. We're using telnet on Cisco devices in 2010 on the DoD, direct connections only.
Yeah. So yeah, here's the thing: is you should have a jump box, and only that jump box can connect to those devices via telnet, right? It should be very one IP to one IP. That's the only hardened device that can connect to those devices. Unfortunately, the people who still have these old devices, and SecIT guy, I really hope you guys, they're still not using that stuff. Because once again, how hard is it to sniff the wire?
Right.
And if you're not using zero trust, which most people aren't these days, that means you're submitting your admin password to these devices over the wire.
So now what about in like, I'm trying to think, the hydro, those old kind of control units, would they be using telnet?
I'm not certain. But remember, let me see real quick. I think I have a comparison real quick. Give me just a moment. Let me see what I got. I got a SSH for I got it. See, guys, I'm telling you, I prepare, like Brandon and I, we sit down and we prepare for this, and we get this content available because you're never going to get this stuff in the CISSP book. And I promise this is way more exciting than sitting down and reading a couple chapters of that bad boy. I promise you that much. Okay, so let's compare and contrast real quick, right?
Yep.
SSH uses port 22, telnet port 23. SSH is going to send all that data in an encrypted format. SSH is using a secure channel, right? When we talk about data encrypted in transit, encrypted at rest, SSH is encrypting that data in transit, whereas Telnet, not so much. Exactly. So SSH, this could be great exam fodder too. I could totally see this being on a test. SSH uses public key encryption in order to authenticate to remote users. What kind of key encryption? Public key encryption. Telnet uses no authentication, right?
Right.
Mechanisms. Once again, data privacy. If it's in clear text, guys, it's not good. Also, if it's in clear text, somebody sniffs your password, they figure out how to get on the jump box and they get onto that switch. Guess what they can do with that switch now?
Yeah, they got full. They can start.
They can laterally move throughout your network, and chances are you're never going to know it. So yeah, it's rough. Now, it does say it's older than SSH. I want to say older, like developed like 1970. Don't quote me on that date, Brandon, but Telnet's been around for a really long time. Now, there's pluses and minuses. Very low bandwidth usage on Telnet. Really high bandwidth usage on SSH. I mean, not really high, but higher. And it's used in Linux and Windows. And oh, there it is. Telnet was developed 1969. See, I'm not going crazy. But yeah, so there you go. Quick comparison: Telnet versus SSH. So
yeah, so just reading here, Telnet's actually still in use, like barcode scanners, RF terminals, data collection devices, still in use right now.
Yeah, and it said on that comparison that for internal networks, it's still appropriate for use. I would highly argue against that. But once again, what if, let's say you got $1 million in hardware that still uses Telnet?
Yeah, what are you going to do, right?
You're going to do.
So put on your CISO hat. Are you going to actually now change that over?
I'd migrate critical services first to a more zero trust type network that's not using Telnet, right? You got to upgrade the hardware. But once again, you don't have $10 million to upgrade everything overnight. So you start with core, and you're going to have to accept some of the risk, right? As you migrate that over. But if you get dropped as a CISO, so 77% said they want to be CISO someday. Let's say you get dropped into a network environment where it's all Telnet. Nothing is encrypted in transit. Brandon, what would you do?
So I'm going to put on my, and I want you guys to answer this. I'm going to give you guys a second before I jump into it, but you got to think about right now, remove the technology, put on your business hat first. What's the first thing you're going to assess? What do you think, Joel? What's the first thing you're going to look at?
Risk.
Okay. What's the other first thing you're going to look at?
Business impact.
Business requirements. Does the business need to have more security? Is there something pushing? Is it compliance, a client requirement, something that's going to push more security, right? If not, that's why they had it.
And why would you invest if it doesn't require it, right? God,
that's the CISO thought process. If they've had it before, why? What was the business need or requirement? If it didn't need to be secure, what was the reasoning, the rationale behind it? Because you don't want to spend company money on more security if it's not needed.
Right. What if there's nothing of value in that network segment whatsoever? And you're like, no, this has to be migrated to zero trust. Look, that's where my head was going. Migrated to zero trust. Let's, where's the dollar?
Defense in depth. Let's put a layer approach on that. Let's put some, a SIM on that and security monitoring. And the other CFO is going, Joel, we don't have the money. What are you doing?
And then Brandon Krieger walks in and he says, well, what are your business requirements around it? Let me be your CISO instead of Joel Bork. And guess what? I'd give you the job.
Right. So
you know how it can impact their business better than the person in that role or the other person who's applying for it.
And that's why we're looking at the CISSP in that light, because remember, a lot of these questions, you have to put your management hat on. What would you do as a manager? Not what would you do as a technical person?
Yeah. No, and I think that's great. And, it was interesting. David Greer said if they hired a CISO, they have something to protect, right? But is it that network segment that they need to protect, or is it something else completely? What are the business requirements, right? Also, let's address what Sec IT guy said. He said it was direct connect via telnet, no internet connection. We were plugged directly into the back of devices to set up initial connection back before the GUI setup was the thing, right? And that's what these old devices were. You basically telnet in, it's all command line setup, right? System configs all on the command line. There's no GUI on this bad boy. These things are ancient. But yeah, so really cool stuff and great conversation, Brandon. Thanks once again for just being my co-host and being you.
Oh, you're welcome. And now let me ask you that. When that question now gets asked to you again in the future, what are you going to think about first?
Business requirements.
Done. And this is why we have this conversation, because if you can have that conversation with the senior level CXOs, they go, Joel gets it, versus Joel, defense in depth, going on that. They're like, he doesn't understand the business. He doesn't get it. Right. And then now Joel's going to go in that conversation. They're going to be like, he gets it. He gets the business requirements. He gets that we don't have $10 million on security because we have manufacturing, we have employees, HR, like all these other costs. Security is what it is right now. What do we need to make it, critical that securing it, and how is it going to affect the business, right? Yeah. What's the business requirement?
Well, and the really cool part was so I'm going to start live streaming. I've told you about the new live stream Uncover Cyber here soon, where we're going to be bringing on cybersecurity products and digging into them and analyzing them. I met with the guy today from R Threat. And without giving away too much, he basically said, the reason we have our product is because who cares how they got into your network? They're in. How are you going to respond and do forensics on that? And so he was a threat emulation platform. So I'm really excited to bring him on here in the near future and dig into his platform, because he does some cool stuff like executing malware in virtual machines on endpoints, and it's going to be cool. But once again, the person who was getting into DFIR in order to go CISO, like, that's crucial, because as a CISO, you have to understand they're eventually probably going to get into your network. Does it matter so much how until after you can respond to it and mitigate it? TBD, depends on your business requirements, right?
Right, exactly. So now, Joel, we have 6 minutes left.
What? Where did the day go?
We gave a great overview of basically real world OSI, right? It was real world OSI. Now, do you want to do rapid fire?
Rapid fire to wrap up the day and hit through session presentation.
Rapid fire, get some questions in here for the next 6 minutes. Let the guys, if you guys have any questions.
Yeah, have them do some questions. I want to get through one more layer real quick. Is that cool?
Let's do it.
All right, so session layer is number 5, guys. It's responsible for establishing, maintaining, and terminating communication sessions between two computers, right? Think simplex, half duplex, full duplex. It establishes checkpoints for grouping and recovering. And the protocols, according to CISSP, that operate in the session layer are NFS, which is Network File Systems, SQL. Once again, this is debatable where it lives, but it says session layer or layer 5, and remote procedure call, or RPC. So let's kind of jump into this real quick for the session layer. And let me share this real fast. I know I want to blow it up for you guys just a hair. There we go. But let's talk session layer real fast. And let's talk DDoS on session layer. And you're going to see something interesting on this one. So if you look at session is 5, this is, once again, it's a data or application layer. It governs the establishment and termination sync of sessions. You guys saw that. The use of protocol log on, log off. And look at the DOS there in the 5th box over. It says Telnet DDoS attacker exploits a flaw in the Telnet server software running on the switch and rendering Telnet services unavailable. This is off the DoD website, by the way. And didn't we just say Telnet was a layer 7?
Telnet?
Yeah, Telnet and SSH are layer 7, according to CISSP, correct?
Right.
Well, according to this, you can DOS Telnet, and that's going to be at layer 5. But once again, guys, that's why layer 5, 6, and 7.
Well, no, became the application layer. Remember that.
It is their own layer. Yep.
Where the TCP and the hybrid layer became the application layer, which then merged it all. So you're looking at levels of progression. These guys right now, when they're talking about real world, they've compressed the session layer, the presentation layer, and the application layer all into the application layer.
That's awesome. Yeah. So that's real quick. That's session layer 5. And when we're talking about that, by the way, simplex, I feel like I need to explain real quick. Simplex is one-way communication. Half duplex is two-way comms, but only one direction can send at a time, right? So if imagine a tunnel that's one way, right? But as soon as that car's done, the guy sticks up his flag and then a car can travel the other direction. That's half duplex. And then full duplex is two-way communication. It can be sent simultaneously. Cool. So that session. Do we have time to go presentation? I think I'm killing it. Let's keep going.
I think you are, but we could do, if you guys have any questions, throw them in right now, because I know there's a lot of burning questions in the community. And guys are asking us on chat, like when they come to LinkedIn. So make sure you follow Joel and myself on LinkedIn, right? Yep. It's ! Brandon, I think, and then ! Joel.
Is it? I don't know if that worked, but anyways, I got to keep going because guys, we got a hard stop and it looks like we, somebody redeemed chat points and we're going to guide a raid. And I've actually never done a raid before, but I've heard it's pretty cool. What we do is right after this at 8:40, we're actually going over to a stream called Alamancy and he's doing hack the box walkthroughs. So if you're on here, 8:40, we're going to migrate over there. Feel free to join us on that stream. And whoever did that, thanks for kind of guiding this. And so if you're interested, join us after over there. But here we go. I'm on a roll. Got to keep rocking. Presentation layer 6. Remember, 5, 6, and 7 are application on that model. But what this is responsible for is transforming data that's received from the application layer. Now, remember, the OSI model, it's when you're sending data, it's going to send it down. When you're receiving, it has to transform that data moving back up to the application layer.
Right.
A few of the things that are in this are JPEG, MPEG, right? So moving picture experts group. And those things are what you guys should be very, very accustomed to, right? I mean, JPEGs, it's once again, it's part of the data layer, right? Or application layer. So let me go ahead and pull up that visual real quick for this.
Yeah, and while you're doing that, I got one question popped in. What have you found to be the minimum number of weeks of studying for an exam that gives you the highest retention and recall of the material in the shortest period of time?
1 week.
Okay. You've done it 1 week?
I've done it in 1 week. Security Plus.
And you've retained it.
I mean, it takes constant effort to retain that. But once again, I was working in a job as a pen tester already. Went to go do Sec Plus, and I needed Sec Plus. So I literally took a week off, studied, crammed, executed, done. And once again, did I retain it? No. And I don't recommend taking an exam like that. I recommend going into it like a guy named Vivek. He went into it, and I'm telling you, guys, if you could have seen Vivek, he told me when his date was. We sat down one-on-one and I did a prep with him. I went through this whole book trying to stump him. And not only did he know it and regurgitate it back to me, but he was able to relate it to something that's impacted him or something that maybe he had a way to remember it that directly applied to real world scenarios. That's what you should be focusing on. Not just, hey, how fast can I cram and jam and get it done like me back when I took Sec Plus? How can you study it to retain it and do well at it moving forward?
So I'm going to give you guys a little tip here. All right. First and foremost, write this down. The acronym is PIE, P-I-E. P stands for place. I stands for imagine. E stands for entwine, with E-N-T-W-I-N. So what you're going to do is you're going to think about a place, right? You're going to associate what you're learning. So if it's Security Plus, if you're looking at pen testing or sniffing attack, Smurf attack, you're going to think about a place of that. You're going to imagine a Smurf, a blue Smurf doing a Smurf attack. Make it crazy, right? And then you're intertwine the place in the actual imagination. That's going to make you remember it. Then the second tip is that you review that 1 hour after, 1 day after, 1 week after, 1 month after. When you do that, it's going to show you if you have it in your long-term memory.
Yeah, no. And I'm telling you, Brandon, those memorization techniques are way more valuable than just cramming, because then you'll be able to recall it. And recall is not only the hard part, but it's the important part.
So now I'm going to ask you guys this. Every guy that's watching this, we're going to talk about Smurf attack. So the place is Smurfville. They did a Smurf attack. Papa Smurf, Red Hat Smurf did the Smurf attack, right? I'm going to ask you next week. I'm going to say Papa Smurf, and I want you guys to ask me to put it in the chat. What am I relating to? And I'm going to tell you, if you remember that and you play this over 1 week, 1 hour, 1 day, and you keep doing that, when I come back, well, we come back on Thursday. When I remind you guys that, I'm sure majority are going to go, Papa Smurf attack. And you're going to do that. That's how your memory works.
Spot on. Yep, it is. And you got to be able to repeat, right? Repetition is key, which is partially why we're here, because you probably get some of this in your everyday life, right? Like us talking about the application layer, layer 7, guess what protocols are there? FTP, HTTP, SMTP. This is stuff you use probably in your everyday life, right? But if we can relate it, we can show you the types of attacks that are being used on this layer and what type of data unit is being used. It's repetition, right? And that's key. And what I just did, Brandon, is I just snuck in the very last layer of the OSI model. So Let me sneak this in real quick, because that will wrap us up for the day. And then we'll answer a couple questions for you guys.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's go ahead and share this.
Keep the questions coming, guys, while we're getting set up here.
Yeah, throw the questions in the chat. Let us wrap up, because we want to move on. We got to prep Sean and a few of you guys BSEC for your exams. So application layer, this is layer 7. It's message and packet creation. This is where it begins. Database access is on this level. End user protocols such as FTP, SMTP, Telnet, SSH, they all work on this layer. Let's talk about examples of a denial of service technique. Let's do a PDF GET request, right? HTTP GET, HTTP POST. Those are website forms. It says login, uploading photo, video, submitting feedback. Okay, that's a pretty weak one in my opinion. But what's the impact? Well, reaching resources, right? So if you can DDoS, bring down a website by overloading the web application server, that's a serious impact to a business, right? So that's the potential impact of a DDoS for application layer. Cool?
That's awesome. Yeah, so do you guys have any questions? I think that was straightforward.
Yep, absolutely. But
email question. Munzi is asking, on your email answer, why not SSL TLS?
SSL TLS for what? What was the?
I think you asked on the email. Why not? Why can't you use SSL or TLS? And I think it's for email security.
Oh, for email security on your email answer. It said, okay, so Munzi, here's the answer to that is they said which is best used for email security. And SMIME is the de facto for encrypting and exchange for emails. So that would be the best one for you. Yeah. As SMIME PGP, those are specifically used for email transfer. Hope that answers your question. All right, guys. That was it.
See if there's any more questions here. Does software development architecture on security-oriented products count as experience towards the CISSP?
Say that one more time.
Does software development and architecture on security-oriented products count as experience towards the CISSP?
Yeah. Software development lifecycle, guys. If you have security built into your software development lifecycle and your focus is implementing that and working with your security team and working with testing to implement security into the software development lifecycle, 100% that applies. Yeah. I mean, once again, you got to realize this is a CISO level cert, right? If you have one of the 8 domains, that definitely applies towards that. You don't have to have all of those domains. You have to have 1, 2, 3 built into that. So
right.
I don't even think
one other question, as someone who is in the situation, is whether or not that is what you should be focused on. Is there something more important that you need to resolve first? Trying to think what Munzi's asking. That was from Munzi.
I'm not quite sure on that one.
Yeah. I'm trying to see if there's any more questions. I think that's it. I think we hit every question.
I think
that's it for tonight.
I did see something. They said they thought SMIME was for attachments. SMIME is for encrypting emails and digitally signing them. And you can also do so with attachments. So I believe most of the time when you if you use something like Virtru, Virtru can send it encrypted, whether you've communicated with that person or not. SMIME, please don't quote me on this, but I believe you have to have an initial exchange of emails with an individual first, and then SMIME begins encrypting your email communications. So those are kind of the differences between the two. So hopefully that helps. And with that, is that a wrap, Brandon?
Yeah, one more comment I see in the actual chat. I just want to address. They're saying, Joel is saying this is a CISO level cert, and today someone posted something for an entry level job on wanting CISSP. So now let's talk about this. The CISSP is a managerial certification, right? And people have it in our CISOs, right? Not saying that you need to have it to be a CISO, right?
Yeah.
But it's something that gives you that managerial certification. The thing is that we're seeing in HR, a lot of times they're putting these different certifications. Now, don't get me, recruiters are getting a lot better. But before, they used to just put this laundry list of you need Security Plus, CSSP, you need to be a SQL administrator by this, and it's like, and you're doing level 1 SOC analyst. And you're like, what?
HR people don't get it, right? They're told, hey, CISSP is a great cert. We need this for InfoSec jobs. And you'll see this, guys. You'll see CISSP on entry-level jobs. If you do see this at your organization, will you please go slap somebody's hand verbally and just be like, hey, guys, this is not appropriate, because we're working on shifting this. We're working on giving entry-level people a chance to come in and learn and put their head down and grind and become a cybersecurity professional. And by putting CISSP on an entry-level role, guys, we're doing them a disservice, because there's a lot of hungry people out there who will do a killer job. We just got to give them a chance.
Exactly. And so when you see that, like you like Joel said, reach out to them, but understand they just don't understand the role, right? Right. And especially if it's entry level, 1 year, 2 years experience. Well, CISSP is supposed to have 5 year experience. It's not lining up, right? You just have to have 1 year experience for that role. And then at that, you're like, okay, hold on. It's 1 year experience, but you asked me to have a 5 year experience certification. The role is not lining up here.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, guys, I want to thank you guys so much for joining us today. Like, honestly, this cyber insecurity Twitch stream and all of the participants and this chat and this community, literally, I'm so excited to be part of it, and I hope you guys are too. If you're not on the Discord, jump on the Discord. If you haven't connected with us on LinkedIn, please do so. That's where I love to chat with each and every one of you. So reach out, give me your Twitch handle name. I'm trying to save them in my phone, so I got your first, last name, and your Twitch handle, just so I can try to put a face to the Twitch handle name. So reach out to me, guys. I love it. And with that, guys, we're just going to go ahead and wrap up the show. We will be back Thursday evening, giving away some more gift cards. Come for the gift card, stay for the content. What's up, Brandon? Close us out.
Don't go anywhere right now, because we're going to finish off the show, but you guys are going to go raid another channel, right? So we're going to finish off here. You're going to see us kind of go to black, but what's going to happen is SecIT is going to raid another channel. Is going to take you guys over there. So get ready to go check out. Was it the Alchemy channel? Is that the one we're getting raided? We're going to raid
Alchemy, and they're doing some hacking stuff. So stick around, check it out, see if it's of interest to you. And guys, we'll see you guys Thursday evening. Thanks so much. Have a great rest of your week. We'll catch you soon.